Hello, welcome to this video. On this video, I'm going to be going through the 10 biggest letdowns album-wise in the history of mankind. From the bloody Stone Age dinosaurs, Fred Flintstones, all the way up to now. I'm going to take the whole of human history and come up with the biggest letdowns of all time. And you will agree with me, because I'm right here. These are bloody letdowns. Now, some of these letdowns were big letdowns to me. Some of these were big letdowns to everybody else. And you might say, well, that's not objective, Andy. But I say, I don't care, because it's my channel, right? And it was, even though it was just a letdown to me, right? The fact is, if everybody was me, then it would have been a letdown for everybody. So the question really should be, would the world be a better place if everybody was me? And of course, the answer's obvious to that. And I will now get straight into these letdown albums. And I'm going to use a different structure. So what will happen is the album will appear here, and then I will act out the expectation of this album and then explain the letdown as though I'm in real time. I won't go and look back and say, oh, I didn't like it because of this. You watch. I'm going to be doing some acting. I'm going to be imagining what I was like. Naive Andy thinking, oh, this is going to be great. Oh, I can't wait for this to come out. And I will act it out so you understand the emotion building up. And then when it didn't quite get there, why it was such a letdown. So at number 10, I have this. Right. This is The Epidemics by L. Shanker. Right. L. Shanker was a violinist. He was in Shakti with John McLaughlin, who I love. Then he left that and he played with Frank Zappa and did an album with Frank Zappa, who I love. Then he worked with Peter Gabriel, who I love. And then he started doing a whole ton of work with Bill Laswell, did incredible stuff, who I love. He then signs up to possibly the greatest record label of all time, ECM Records, and makes some incredible albums, amazing albums, right? But then in the 1980s, he puts a supergroup together. And who's in this supergroup, we ask ourselves? On bass, he's got the incredible Percy Jones from Brand X. Yes, Percy Jones, right? And on guitar, he's got the wonder kid at the time, Steve Vai. L. Shanker, Percy Jones, and Steve Vai. Oh my God. On ECM Records. ECM Records never let you down. Is there a bad ECM album? Is there a bad one? No. You know, the Manfred Eicher's got too much taste to let anything bad happen. This is going to be amazing. Who they got on drums on there? Oh, I don't know who they got on drums. It might be a drum machine. Hang on. Did you not realise at that point, when you realised there was a drum machine on there, that there was something iffy? What could be worse than having a drum machine on an album? Having your girlfriend singing on it. Yes, even worse. So those two things were there. I thought, no, not Manfred Eicher. He's not going to let any shite come through, is he? No, he's not going to let anything like that through. Right, so I went to go and get this album and go down my local record shop. Where's this album? Steve Vai, Percy Jones, L. Shanker. Where is it? I've got to have it. I've got to own it. I own everything by Steve Vai. I've bought everything. I've got Disturbing the Peace by bloody Alcatraz. I've got the Public Image Limited album. You know, I've got everything he's ever played on. I've got to have it. Well, is it not in the record shop? No. Could I order it then? Well, let's have a look then. And so I'm there in the shop. Oh, yeah, we could order it from ECM Records. Got to come from Journey. How expensive would that be? Well, it's on the import. It's going to be a whole ton of money. Oh, I'll go up Birmingham, see if it's up there. So then I'll toddle up to Birmingham, go around the bigger record shops. Yeah, they haven't got it there either. Where's this album, the Supergroup? Why isn't it out and about? Why is nobody talking about it? Where is it? So I'll go back to my local. Can you order for me? I'll pay the 30 quid. I'll pay it. I'm only a young man. I've got no money, but I've been able to, wash cars and do other things to get the cash. I've got my hard-earned cash, and I want to spend on this album with Steve Vai, Percy Jones, and L. Shanker on it. So I order it, and then I wait. And then it arrives. Oh, and I get it. Go down the record shop, they hand it to me. ECM, The Epidemics. That's like the coolest band name ever. This cool album, just black and white with this elephant on the front. Oh, it's going to be all Indian-y and Mavish Orchestra and Percy Jones doing all his bubbling bass. Take it home and put it on. And what am I met with at that point? What I met with is the worst album ever made. A terrible concoction of awful pop songs with El Shanker trying to be a pop star while his girlfriend Caroline sings her horrible, uncatchy, unknowing of what pop music is, pop hooks, whilst Percy Jones bubbles away in the background over some drum machine that he has no feel or sort of empathy with, and Steve Vai waffles away with some horrible tinny guitar sound because, of course, the engineers at ACM haven't got a clue how to mic up a bloody rock and roll guitarist. Bloody letdown. Now, I know some of you, and I've spoken about this album before. I've done the worst albums and gone through a whole bunch of worst albums on many a video. I've mentioned this Epidemics albums, and you will be going, right, oh my God, Steve Vai and Percy Jones, well, it can't be that bad, and then they come back and they go, this is definitely the worst album on ECM Records. It just is. If you want to know what it is, it's this one. Is it still in print, I ask myself? It can't be, can I? Can it? Right, so who have we got at number 9? At number 9, we've got that. Oh, I keep doing it in the wrong place. Are you ready, Andy? Because I've got to drop this in the right place. I want it to be really cool. I have got that. There we go. There it is. The Firm. Now, this is a bad album, I suppose. But you've got to understand, I discovered Led Zeppelin in 1980, right? I can remember... No, it wasn't. I'm lying. It was about 1981. That was it. It was 1981. And I can remember it sort of came on my radar because Robert Plant lived quite local to me and John Bonham lived quite local. So when John Bonham died, it was big news, not just in the national press, but in the local press. And so you got your mum and dad going, oh, some drummers died who lived in Cuttle Green. He was in this band, Led Zeppelin. Have you heard of them? And I was going, I've heard of them. They're like a rock band. And so I got into Led Zeppelin at the point when they just stopped, And Robert Plant was he'd got the Honey Drippers together, so he was gigging around and he kept cropping up in the local magazines. And he eventually gets some solo albums out. They do really, really well. And I get them, and I'm like, yes, he's great. I love Robert Plant, I do. He's great. I do love him. But, for me, if I'm being really honest, the real deal for me, it was Jimmy Page. Well, what's Jimmy Page doing? Now, what Jimmy Page was doing the soundtrack for his mate Michael Winner for Death Wish. Was it 3 or Death Wish 2? I don't know which one it is. Right? So, believe it or not, that was exciting to me. Because I was such a Led Zeppelin fan at this point that I went out and bought the Death Wish soundtrack. And I got to be honest, I did like it. I did enjoy it. I liked the album. That wasn't a letdown because Jimmy Page was doing something different. I accepted that, and we heard the Jimmy Page genius, and he was doing all the compositional thing, and he's very architectural in his approach to Jimmy Page, and it was wonderful. But I wish you'd get a bloody band together, like a proper band together. Yeah, but... you've got to get someone as good as Robert Plant. Well, what if he got someone that was maybe even better than Robert Plant? Who would that be? Well, you never know. Look at Paul Rodgers from Free, one of the bloody greatest singers of all time. Oh my God, what a great idea. What if he was to form a band with Paul Rodgers, okay, and name it after The Firm, which is like organised crime, so you got a bit of that, Peter Grant thing going on. And they did. And this album came out, and I was so excited about it. Now, it was nowhere near in the league of the Epidemics, but I got to be honest, it was a huge letdown. And this was one of those albums. It was like the Epidemics where I hated it as soon as I heard it and rejected it like it was a shock. There's a different type of letdown. This sort of letdown's worse. It's a sort of letdown when you put the album on, you go, I'm going to like this. Yeah, this bit's all right. Yeah, this song's all right. I mean, it's all right. They'll kick it in a minute. They just put this at the front because it's more catchy. Next song's on. Yeah, God, no, they did put the better one up front, didn't they? And you go through the album like that, trying to like it. Now, here we have Jimmy Page coming back with Paul Rodgers singing, right? And here we are 40 years later. If that album was any good, it would have gone down in history. But no one even thinks about it. A few years later, he does the Coverdale Page one. That's a great album, but this wasn't. He also came back with Outrider, which I think was a better attempt. But Jimmy Page he just couldn't quite get back on the horse, right? It could have been too much heroin and worshipping Aleister Crowley. I think had sort of done his head in, perhaps. And he couldn't quite pull it together. That's what I think. Now, Paul Rodgers is not only responsible for teaming up with Jimmy Page and ruining the memory of Led Zeppelin, but he also did it to Queen, didn't he, as well? I mean, it's like, but he Bad Company, which was like the first one he did, that went up down all right, didn't it? Bloody Paul Rodgers, great singer, great singer. So yeah, The Firm. It's hard to say anything about it. It's not terrible. It just doesn't have the riffs. It doesn't have the production. It doesn't have John Bonham and John Paul Jones. Paul Rodgers sings great, but it's not the sort of hysterical foil to Jimmy Page that Robert Plant could be. And I don't know. It's just Jimmy Page only ever had. It's incredible. Jimmy Page spent the 1960s playing on every album, doing all this session work, fitting in like a chameleon to absolutely every setting. Then with Zeppelin, he finds this thing. And then when John Bonham dies, it gets taken away. Robert has been able to forge his own line through it because before he was the singer for Jimmy Page. But Jimmy Page, without Zeppelin, just couldn't do it. And it's quite sad in a way. So he ends up being the arbiter of the memory of Led Zeppelin, which he has done a very good job of. So that's who I've got at number 9 is The Firm. Right. So at number 7, I have this. Okay, so in 1984. Yes, they've got a new album out. Have they? Yeah. But the last one, Drama, I mean, it was really good and it had loads of Yes stuff in that was absolutely amazing. But didn't it have that bloke out the Buggles? Yeah. What, the one with the glasses? Yeah. Blood, yeah. I'm just not going to like it on principle then if he's doing it. Yeah, I know. But so have they got a new album? Have they got that bloke from the Buggles in? Well, yeah, they have, Andy. Oh, God. Yeah, but he's not singing. What's he doing when he's producing it? Well, that's not so bad. What's he like as a producer? Has he done anything good? Well, ABC. Well, I don't like that. What if he makes them all poppy and they stop doing big, long epics, based upon the teachings of some Indian yogi? That's what I want from Yes. No fanning around with bloody pop music. Yeah, but what have they got on vocals then when they got John Anderson in? Really? And they got Alan White in? Really? And Chris Squire's in there? Who's on keyboards? Is it Rick Wakeman? No, they got Tony Kaye in. Oh, from the Yes album, I quite like Tony Kaye. Who's on guitar? Trevor Rabin. I know, Trevor Rabin. He's been in Kerrang a couple of times. He's actually quite a good guitarist. He writes quite good songs, actually. Let's go and get it then. I hope it's not all poppy. Now, for me, go out and get 90125, put it on. What the hell's this? Is it Yes? But it's bloody amazing. This is such an achievement for a band, especially Yes, to be able to come out in the 1980s with a rock song, with a killer riff that actually normal people like, with a hook that was incredible. You got Trevor Rabin's poppy hook against John Anderson still doing his thing, he's still singing about eagles flying and all that type of stuff. And the album, these are pop songs, and this is what the people who don't like this album don't understand. The Yes album, the 90125, the arrangements and parts and everything, the cleverness is just exactly like a Yes album. It does everything that Yes always did. It's just pared down into pop songs with better hooks than they ever had. 90125, I love to this day. There's not many albums that I can listen to from the early to mid 80s where I enjoy, and hats off to bloody Trevor Horn, because he is 80s production, but his 80s productions never sound terrible. Go and listen to Grace Jones' Slave to the Rhythm. It's probably the greatest produced track of all time, and it still sounds incredible now. It's such a huge achievement. It's a landmark in so many different things, in Yes's career, in progressive rock, in 80s pop music. It's mind-blowing, right? Yes have changed their sound, and they've done it. Genesis, for me, never did it. I know people like Genesis pop stuff, but I don't like it. But I love every single song on 90125. I don't care what you say. Yes, fans, no, let me tell you. Right, so then we wait. Now, any band at this point would be, they'd be in the studio the next year, bang out, get another album, consolidate their success, become one of the biggest pop bands in the 1980s, and now go on to be possibly the biggest band on the planet. If they'd only just got a bloody record out. Now, I can't tell you why they didn't get a record out and why it took 3 bloody years until Big Generator came out. But when Big Generator came out, what I heard was what I feared 90125 would be. Loads of great big horrible 80s production, loads of attempts at pop music, and just, you know, there's a thunderous groove that Alan White can do, and some of those bass lines are like, it was a letdown. Big Generator was a letdown, right? We got that bloody live album with just the solos, and what were they doing? And then you get the travesty of bloody Anderson, Wakeman, and Hour, or whatever it's called, and then Union, and that is the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end for Yes is Big Generator. And after that, it should all be erased from history. I don't care what anybody said. They've besmirched the bloody legacy that they had. They really have, and it starts with Big Generator. Now, Big Generator as an album is nowhere near as bad as some of the travesties as past as Yes albums after that. Right? And don't come and say, oh, Magnifique or whatever it's called is great, you know, and some talks go, oh yeah, they all have their moments on. This is one of the greatest bands of all time. But they made a misstep here, and it's the missteps. I'm not casting aspersions on their ability as a band. I'm not casting my aspersions on Steve Howe's now ability to deliver a Yes album. It's not that. It's the bad decision making that keeps happening over and over again. If there's a bad decision to be made, they will make it. You know, recently I did a video that shocked a lot of Yes fans where I put some of the... They appeared twice in the worst decisions ever made. Go and check it out. I ain't going to do it here. Right, so that's who I've got at number 7 is Big Generator. Okay? Now, of course, that 90125 sound, that could have well been influenced by a band that had gone before. Because there's one guy missing, it's Steve Howe. He wasn't there. Trevor Raymond was there instead. What was Steve Howe up to? He was in Asia. Now, Asia 8081 had done what Yes were about to do later on. Okay? I think around about 1981, I'm really getting into my prog. And Kerrang announced that there's this new super group being formed that's called Asia. And in Kerrang, they had a picture of Steve Howe pointing to a map with the words Asia on it. And then Kerrang had dropped in the same letters over the top, but not in quite the same place.
Viewers, I'm editing the video right now, and I thought I want to put that picture in. So I went on to Google and Googled it, just couldn't find it. So I thought maybe I can track it down in an issue of Kerrang. And I had a vague memory of a Kerrang with Richie Blackmore on the front playing a cello. And so I tracked that one down, found a PDF online, and this is the photo. So here it is. What amazes me is that I don't remember the fact that Steve Howe had his head bursting through the map. I didn't seem to remember that, but this is the photo anyway.
Do any of you remember that here in the UK, Kerrang, readers, where you opened it up and it said Steve Howe's there, and you go, oh, Steve Howe, what's he up to? He's forming a band. With John Wetton from King Crimson, with Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and then Jeff Downes, who did a good job. He wasn't the one with the glasses on drama. He was the one, that had done the good keyboard play. Got no problem with him, right? The idea of having a sort of conflagration of ELP, King Crimson, and Yes. These are superstars. I was so excited. I wait, and then the album comes out. And the album's got this sort of Yes, like Roger Dean-esque type cover. Oh my God, this is going to be amazing. Can you imagine what I was imagining in my head, right? I was imagining like UK, basically. That's what I was imagining. I was imagining that when I put that album on, I was going to get, In the Dead of Night. I didn't get it, did I? Nah. Instead of being in the dead of night, I was in the heat of the moment. It was the heat of the moment. God, I mean the most insipid, middle of the road AOR rock. I bloody hated it. I hated it. It was the biggest letdown. They brought another album out after that. Was it called Alpha? One of the most incredible prog covers ever. It was like bloody Molly Hatchet. Molly Hatchet are the same. They kept bloody swindling you into thinking there was a progressive rock album there when there wasn't. And Aisha did the same thing, right? Now this goes to number one, right? And you could tell that when Yes reform, originally as Cinema, and then they decide to become Yes, they're almost like, you can feel a jealousy to what Aisha has done. And the riff to In the Heat of the Moment, I think if you turn it upside down, becomes the guitar riff to Owner of a Lonely Heart. Why do I love Owner of a Lonely Heart so much and hate that Aisha album? Everyone else loved it. I think it's a Trevor Horn production, I think Trevor Horn made it sound like really modern, whereas the Aisha album sounded like Foreigner. Right, let's move on, shall we? At number 5, I've got that. For those about to rock. Now, I put this on the list because I mentioned it on my Rick Beato interview, and it was just a throwaway comment. I said, AC/DC have not done anything good since For Those About to Rock. And I didn't really explain actually what happens with For Those About to Rock. So let me go back and put myself in that place now. Similar period of time. It's like very much like AC/DC. Very much like Led Zeppelin. In 1980, I discovered AC/DC, and it was news because Bon Scott had just died. And a girl I knew who was also a rock fan, she went out and bought Highway to Hell. And I absolutely loved Highway to Hell. I thought it was the greatest rock album I've ever heard. And it is. It's possibly the greatest rock album that I've ever heard.
So I remember buying Hell's Bells. I think it was a double A side with Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. They got a new singer, but my God, was this amazing. Hell's Bells was like amazing. Nothing on Highway to Hell was like that. This is dark, and it basically up the ante in a way. Hell's Bells is almost like prog. It's like, what band, when their singer dies, comes back with a bloody death knell? It opens up Back in Black, right? Incredible. I'm gonna have to do it, because what happens is Hell's Bells is amazing. That's when I first heard Hell's Bells. This is the point. But in reality, Back in Black comes out. It's got a new singer. The band should die at this point. And starts up. What's this? Bon Scott was on a Highway to Hell. What's happening now? Where is he? He's dead. And they're announcing it. This is like a bloody... This is dark. This is AC/DC don't do this. They're dealing with death. The album's black. It's black all over. You'd have to touch it to feel the bloody words on it. What's AC/DC do? I thought they were a party band. And then... What's this? The Mavish structure. What's this? What's happening? Bloody hell, this is dark. What's the new singer going to sound like? He can't be better than Bon. rolling thunder, pouring rain, coming out like a hurricane. I can't remember that lyric. You're only young, but this was like going to bleed. We've gone there. This is Death Incarnate by AC/DC. A few minutes later, we got You Shook Me All Night Long, haven't we? Let Me Put My Love Into You. It was amazing. Back in Black is almost equal to Highway to Hell as being the greatest rock album. They've done it, haven't they? Oh my God. AC/DC, I love him. New singer's great. He's bloody amazing. Yeah, he's really, really good. Yeah, I think I'm going to still like them. Yeah, I plan not to like them. But now I've heard it, I'm going to like them, yeah. Shall we do that, shall we? All decided, yeah, let's all like them. So we all like them. We wait for the next album to come out, all excited for Those About to Rock. My mate bought it first. I've got For Those About to Rock, Andy. You want to come round and listen to it? Yes. So I go around, he makes me a cup of tea, we sit down, we put For Those About to Rock. Bloody hell, they've got even more proggy. This is about death. This is like bloody Roman. This is like gladiatorial fighting now. This is, there's bloody cannons going off. For those about to rock, we salute you. It's all that, but it's amazing, right? So amazing. We were so fired up that the rest of the album we talked over and said how great it was, and cursory listened. They've delivered it again, haven't they? They've delivered it again. I went and got the album and listened to For Those About to Rock over and over again. It was amazing. Not really, because that first track being so epic, it had really bloody distracted me from the fact that the rest of it is shite and doesn't sound like AC/DC. And you know why? Because when they went in to do Back in Black, they still had the ripples of Bon Scott. They got his lyrics, they got songs they'd written, it was all there. Now, since then, they've never made a bad album. They've done what AC/DC do, and I can put any AC/DC album on and I will love it, because I can't tell you how much I love AC/DC. I absolutely love them. I'm a simple man, and I like rock music, and AC/DC do it better than anybody else, right? But I've said here that it took a while, but actually that album was a terrible bloody letdown. Right, at number 4, I have got A Different Kind of Truth by Van Halen. There's a thing here, rock bands I like bringing out crap albums. It's like this is basically, I think, all of these except for the first one, the Epidemics one. So A Different Kind of Truth is the last album by Van Halen, and it features Dave Lee Roth on vocals. It's not a bad album. It was well received at the time. But the truth is this. Van Halen, like AC/DC, are one of the greatest rock bands of all time. Their first album came out in 1978. And that, and Van Halen 2, and Women and Children First, and Fair Warning, and Mean Streets, or whatever it is. So I'm getting messages coming through at the moment. I'm trying to read them like this because it's really important messages. I can't tell you what it is. It looks really exciting now. I just want to finish this video to read those messages. Anyway, I will keep going. I'm professional. I ain't going to stop. You like me to do it all in one big go. Right, so 1984. All those albums are masterpieces. I can't tell you which is my favourite Van Halen album from that period. I can't tell you which one it would be. They're all amazing. Even Diver Down. That's the one I was thrashing around trying to get. Even Diver Down, I absolutely love. Now, Dave Lee Roth leaves after 1984, and they're at the peak of their powers. He goes off and does Eat 'Em and Smile, which is incredible. And for me, the heart of Van Halen goes there. Steve Vai comes in, does more than a reasonable job of replacing that
Eddie Van Halen shaped hole. And they go and get Sammy Hagar. Now, I was a fan of Montrose, and I loved that, Space Station number 9 or whatever it was, because I loved all that. And I wasn't so hot on the later Hagar stuff, but when Hagar came in, it just became some sort of corporate AOR bloody rock band, and 5150, and I couldn't stand OU812 had a couple of tracks that were better. And, I liked, what was the Sammy Hagar track I really loved? Human Beings, is that the one? Love that track. So I don't hate them, but the Hagar Van Halen is a band that is okay. It's like a totally different band to me. Hagar leaves, and then they go and grab possibly the greatest choice of a lead singer, which would be Gary Cherone from Extreme. And he comes in and does a brilliant job. But that album, which is called Van Halen 3, was massively panned. Now, I would argue it's not that bad. When you put it on, Gary does a reasonable job. What is wrong with that album? I'm going to tell you what's wrong with that album, is that the Van Halen magic, Van Halen's doing everything that he's done before, but for some reason there's a swagger and a coolness missing. He's doing all the things he should do, but it's just not coming together that well. Right, and I thought about this this morning. I thought, what is the reason for that? And I think it's this. It's quite simple. When Dave Lee Roth left Van Halen in 1984, he was 29, and Eddie Van Halen was 27, and there's a big space in time. And I think if the lineup had been stable, they would have been able, like AC/DC, just to go on into old age. But in a way, Dave Lee Roth going in 1984 cemented in our minds that that's the classic lineup. And we all want Dave Lee Roth to come back. Obviously, when Dave came back, I mean, his voice is shot now. But back then, it was still, it wasn't shot, but it wasn't what it was before. There's a tiredness to it. The way that comes across, the tiredness comes across as not any riff, vocal hook, or anything. Although competent, none of it seems to you don't remember it. I've listened to the album a few times. I can't remember anything on it. And Van Halen were always great at the drama of an album. The first album, you get that incredible bass riff, and then you get Running with the Devil, no guitar solo. And then from there, we then get Eruption, and you're like, what the hell's this? This is a guitar he invented. And then it goes into a cover of a Kinks song, and it's better than the Kinks, and it's heavy. And then later on, you get the acoustic blues of Ice Cream Man. You get the sort of proto-punk, atomic punk, all this stuff's going on. Then you get the next album. And Van Halen had a genius where he was always pushing the envelope out, right up until Diver Down is the album where it's just all the way through. You think, what the hell are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? I know that they were fighting Dave Lee Roth want to do cover version of Navic Records, and Eddie Van Halen want to experiment. But the experimentation that Eddie Van Halen does on Diver Down is incredible. Cathedral's incredible. I just love it. And you get, they're pushing the boat out. And then you get 1984, their greatest statement in terms of rock and roll, and the greatest guitarist in the greatest rock band of all time makes his name in rock. He immortalized himself not on guitar. He manages to do it on keyboards with a keyboard riff, proving that it's the music. It's the music with Eddie Van Halen. He's like a genius. I don't think that was there anymore. It doesn't have that drama. I don't listen to it thinking, what's going to happen next? What are they going to do? Right? Dave Lee Roth brings this like swagger and almost like vaudevillian entertainment. And then it's balanced by the genius of Eddie Van Halen. And he's almost like a Mozart of rock. And the other two guys are just the most solidest rhythm section. And I have to be honest, it's like, you could say, well, at least the original lineup got back together, like Black Sabbath. except on their last album they didn't, because they didn't have the drummer with them, and that was wrong, and they knew it was wrong, and that was why Ozzy wanted to do that last concert. But with Van Halen, they didn't even have Michael Anthony on, and there's no reason not to have Michael Anthony on. I think they just shoehorned Wolfgang in, who is now carrying on with the spirit of his dad, which is great, and good luck to him. Right, so number 3, don't want to talk about this one much. I've got Chinese Democracy. Wasn't a letdown to me. I knew Guns N' Roses was bloody rubbish. Come on, let's say it. That's the only statement I have to make. Guns N' Roses are rubbish. They're a rubbish rock band. They should not be seen as being one of the great rock bands. And in some cases, people will say they are one of the greatest rock bands of all time. I'm about to do a video on the Billboard Top 50 greatest bands of all time. And Guns N' Roses in there. They, it's like they have achieved this incredible status off one album. Don't tell me that, that Use Your Illusion of those 2 albums are great albums. They're not. There's some quite good tracks on there. Then after that, complete shite. They made their reputation on one album, right? So when they go back into the studio and spend like about 10 years and like $1 billion trying to make this bloody Chinese Democracy album, why is it rubbish? The reason it's rubbish is because they fluked the first album. And in trying to create an album as great as that first album, that has been their downfall. Now, what are the elements that made that album so great? One is youth. The second is guys who were rock and rollers and just wanted to party, right? That is always a brilliant recipe for brilliant rock and roll, because you feel it, you just go in and you do it, right? Without that, it becomes just like corporate, like chess moves. We've got to have this, we've got to have that, get that produced and re-record that. And that's the kiss of death. It's completely competent. You might enjoy some of the tracks on it. Right? But rock and roll is rock and roll. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Let's move on. I've lost my place. There we go. So at number 2, again, these have to be up high. But there's not much to say about them because I've spoken about them at length. And number 2, I've got The Final Cut by Pink Floyd.
Roger, calm down. Don't sink to his level. All right, I won't.
What level?
Well, stop shouting. Stop shouting back. Let him interrupt you as much as you want. Okay. All right. Sorry, Piers, what were you saying?
Don't tell me it wasn't a letdown. My best mate was Pink Floyd mad. I wasn't. I loved Dark Side of the Moon, but Animals and The Wall, I wasn't particularly impressed by. But The Wall had taken Pink Floyd and they crossed over into mainstream culture. Us as kids had all seen that, we don't need no education, another brick in the wall. We'd all seen it with the bloody Gerald Scarfe cartoons and all that bit going on. Gone to number 1 in the charts. We'd all gone to school singing that. Became the new Schools Out, didn't it? We don't need no education. I mean, this is something that Dark Side of the Moon never did. And then they had a bloody film come out with a bloke from, not Dexter's Midnight Runners, the bloke from the Boomtown Rats acted in it. I remember it. Dirty Women. I remember watching it. I was a Pink Floyd fan, got the video of it, or saw it on the telly. I remember watching it. Pink Floyd fan. Some ladies took their tops off. They could see their chests, and I thought, bloody hell, can't believe it. So it's all very memorable stuff, isn't it? Then this next album comes out, The Final Cut, and my mate bought it. He was so excited. Everybody was excited about this album. And I went round, we put it on. It was just some sort of dull thing about people in the war. Then Roger Waters buggered off. And then they turned into bloody Dire Straits, didn't they? That's what happened. And it was a letdown. Why was it a letdown? Because Roger Waters is a twat. And he got his way. Okay? Roger Waters, right? You can only have Roger in small doses.
And it was just the right amount on Dark Side of the Moon. But once he gets in there, he just becomes what he is, which is self-opinionated, stuck-up Marxist who thinks everything he says and does is right regardless, because he was brought up like that by his mommy. Of course, his dad famously dying in the war. But he needed a dad to give him a few clip round the ears. He comes across to me like, you know, you're sort of lefty, spoilt, middle-class Marxist. The worst sort, right? They're completely harmless. You know, if he hadn't been in Pink Floyd, he would just be sat there grumbling at people in a cardigan with his pipe.
Don't sink to his level.
That's what he would be doing and feeling, because he's a Marxist. He can say whatever he wants to, wherever he wants. And that it's all jolly and, kill all the rich, I would just kill all the rich, I would, you know. That is what he is. But the trouble is, he's a rock star in Pink Floyd, and so he believes his own. I'm fed up with him. I started championing it. I am a sort of very liberal person that opens every, you know, welcomes every sort of viewpoint in. And when he first started going on, I thought, well, he's a progger and let's support him in what he's saying. I don't necessarily agree with it, you know, but you should have a right to say what you say. Nah, not now. Shut up, Roger. I've had enough of you. You know, he's a privileged man. He gets on Piers Morgan because they know that it's the bass player of bloody Pink Floyd and it's a big deal. And he comes on and he should not have bloody any sort of... I don't want to cancel him. Cool, I don't mean it like that. Right? He's not got the chops. Intellectually, he just hasn't got them. I don't care what anyone says. He ruins everything. And the final cut is an example of that. Everybody going on about his dad. Oh, got no dad, he got killed in the war. Right, at number one, right, this is a continual letdown. All of these are letdowns, but then you move on. But for me, this one, I keep coming back to, and you can never guess what it's going to be. Normally, my number ones are so obvious. They go, yeah, it's a letdown. This one, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's quite good, Andy. It is the biggest letdown of all. It's Lord Sutch and his heavy friends. Okay, so what we got here? We have got Lord Sutch, Screaming Lord Sutch. Right now, Screaming Lord Sutch, for those of you who don't know, he emerged in the 60s and he had this band, and it was like a bit... every 60s band had to have a thing. You know, like 70s cop shows, they always have to have a thing, like Einstein's got a bloody wheelchair, and, you know, Kojak's got a bald head, and Starsky and Hutch are gay. You know, all these things that make that what it is. In the 60s, you had that, you know. Okay, so you got like the cheeky Cockneys with the Kinks, you've got the cheeky Liverpudlians with the Beatles, then you've got the rocky, rolly, you know, middle class types in the Rolling Stones. You got all that going on, and the sort of loony end of that was personified by Screaming Lord Sutch. My friend John Bates actually played piano in Screaming Lord Sutch around about this time when this album came out. In fact. I can't remember. Is it David Sutch? Was that his name? I can't remember. He then went on to form the Monster Raving Loony Party, and every time we had an election, he would stand as a candidate somewhere for it, and he'd stand there in his big hat, you know, and all that bit. That's how I know him. But apparently, because he got heavy friends, and we don't mean fat friends, not like Big Daddy, you know. He had the same hat as Big Daddy, actually, back in the old days, but not like Big Daddy or John Eightstock. So we mean heavy friends as in there, they were heavy rock friends. John Bonham, for example, Jimmy Page, can't remember what else is on this album, and I've realised I've got to this point of the video and I actually can't remember. You go and have a look it up. It's got loads. I'll put it down here, all the people it's got. I think it's on the bloody cover of the album, so I'll put it up really big here so you could have a read of who's on it. The fact it's got John Bonham on it. Now, John Bonham didn't do that much session work. You know, if you're a massive John Bonham fan, if you're a massive Led Zeppelin fan, there's not that much to listen to. And so anything that's a bit zeppy, especially with John Bonham on, we're going to search out. You know, we all went and bought that bloody Roy Harper album because Jimmy Page was on it, didn't we? You know, and all that bit. That was a bit of a letdown, but not a letdown like this, because at least Roy Harper's album's okay. This is crap. I don't know what it is about this album. It's like none of them can get it together. I'm sure they were just drunk.
I'm sure they went to this thing and they all got drunk and put down an album, and there's nothing to it whatsoever. But the problem is, for me, I keep thinking there will be. I keep looking at the lineup, and every couple of years I go, I'll have another listen to that album. There's got to be something good on there. And there never is. It's a big letdown. And that was the idea of this video. And I've got to the end of it. And I've got to be honest, I want to read my text messages. I'm going to move on now. I've had some text messages coming in and they look really interesting. Sorry to put you second, you know, but normally you would have got another 15 minutes. But actually, that has actually made me rocket through this this video with aplomb. And so I will finish up there. Like and subscribe, check out all the links, become a patron, you know, become a member, you know, all the things that are there. And I will see you on the next video. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Calm down. Don't sink to his level. All right, I won't.
What level?
Well, stop shouting. Stop shouting back. Let him interrupt you as much as you want. Okay. All right. Sorry, Piers. What were you saying?